We are live now. We will get started in just a second. Let me make sure we are live on Instagram as well, and then we will kick off this Thanksgiving week. All right, here we go. Boom. All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Two Lost Office Hours. I'm looking forward to this one. You guys should be looking forward to this one because we have the VP of Product for Audiomack, Charlie Kaplan. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on, Dame. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, Audiomack's doing a lot of exciting things. There's a lot of interesting features on the platform that aren't available anywhere else. We're going to dive into all of that. Typically, however, when I start these conversations, I like to get a win that you've gotten from the past week. So give us a win. Something, it don't have to be crazy big. It could be something smaller, personal, professional. What's one of your wins from the last week, Charlie?
Well, can I give you a big one?
Big ones are accepted too. Look, I look at my shirt today is we're,
Amazing.
we're
I
heavy on the
mean,
wins.
you
We're,
must
we're,
have felt it somehow because it's coming.
it's
So,
heavy.
right. So when I joined Audiomack in 2000, the summer of 2018, we had in general like 900,000 daily active users on the platform.
Okay.
And in the last 2 weeks, we went over 10 million daily active users 4 times. That's
Yes.
big. That's
10
big.
mil.
That
10 mil.
yes,
That, hey,
10 mil.
that's amazing. That's a super huge win. Congrats.
Gigantic.
Congrats.
It's the
Um,
eight digits club every day. I mean, it's like there's not a lot of companies that can boast more than that. It's a short list, so it's amazing. It's humbling.
So I think that sets the tone for the conversation because, unfortunately, when people think, DSPs, they immediately go to Spotify, Apple Music. I think it's great that we start out with that number because obviously there's a lot of potential fans that people can get in front of, interact with. What do you attribute that growth to?
It's a great question. And I hope you don't mind me getting like a little nerdy with it for a second, but you know, the history, you think about the history of streaming music, like Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, etc. You know, in that history, there's this really arbitrary, like, used to be $10 a month subscription fee that everybody
Mhm.
pays. And now it's $12 a month. And what that effectively did was drew a line through all the people in the world and said, for all the people in the world who can pay more than that amount of money, you can use those services. But if you
Mhm.
can't pay that much money, like if you don't have $10 every month, and that is like countries all over the world where this is the case,
Mhm.
then the music industry does not provide for you. And we think at Audiomack that that's pretty tragic because you come from less means. That doesn't mean you're less deserving of access to music. Music is for everybody. And
Right.
so Audiomack is, I think, the only major streaming platform out there that does not put offlining behind a paywall and that has a really robust on-demand ad-supported tier. What that means is that anybody can listen to music when they download the platform without getting a subscription. We do have a plus subscription that gives you a lot of other features. But B, what it means is if you come from some place where, streaming is very expensive or you don't have the money to spend past your data cap in a month, you know, those other platforms become kind of anathema to you. And so the thing about
Mhm.
Audiomack is you can listen to music offline, meaning you can control your costs as a listener. And we have become really, really significant in countries all over the world where folks don't have a lot of spending power. Nigeria, Ghana, we've been able to bring like what not, in my humble opinion, a world-class music experience to those folks. But on top of that, people in every country around the world who might not have spending power. So imagine like a 16-year-old in New York who doesn't have a bank account yet. They
Mhm.
can't start a subscription because they don't have a debit card, they don't have a credit card. They can't do anything. And so Audiomack is a really powerful tool for them too. So we have this really strong, really international, really young user base because we built the platform that they can access, which I think from an economic perspective, a lot of other streaming services have either chosen to neglect or have been restricted in what their offerings can be and has prevented them from being able to provide.
So, given that it is a large international presence, what genres of music are resonating most on the platform?
It's a great question. So I think one of the like most significant, most innovative, most powerful centers of music culturally in the world right now is Lagos in Nigeria, as well
Hmm.
as Accra in Ghana. Like West Africa is an incredibly important cultural space for music, and Afrobeats has become like incredibly influential on Audiomack to the point where pick the artist that you want to talk about, Davido or Wizkid. These are artists who really kind of began their career on Audiomack and whose audiences are more present on Audiomack than really on any other platform. I mentioned that 10 million a day number. Audiomack is like 36, 37 million users a month, and dominantly those users are in West Africa. And so certainly Afrobeats is hugely influential here. That being said, Audiomack began as a, kind of like a mixtape platform, not terribly unlike, my mixtapes or Dat Piff or something like that. And so we have this really, really strong community that's been with us for well over a decade, especially in the American Southeast and in Texas, of folks who love hip hop, who love rap, and who have been seeing artists, make music and get influential on the platform for a really long time, to the point where like the most popular, I think, video that we've ever made on the platform is the video of like Migos from like 10 years ago because of how successful we were in Atlanta. So the cultural component within the US is very strongly hip hop. And then internationally, and increasingly in the US, Afrobeats is like a giant player for us musically.
Nice. See, we got some fans in here. Yo, Maestro says, big fan of Audiomack, especially for overseas. Hood Savior, Audiomack's been one of my favorite two platforms to drop my artists for the last 2 to 3 years consistently. Boom. Lots of people already know. But okay, so we have kind of like the price point thing, accessibility, making sure that it's available to folks in countries that may not have the $12 a month. What would
Right.
you say are some other differentiating factors from other DSPs that you would want to highlight?
Yeah, it's a great question. So definitely like the elephant in the room is that that pricing thing, but you're right, we have built out the platform to I think offer a lot of the features that sometimes you hear floated on other platforms, but that they don't actually build. So a really good example of this is we built a platform called Connect. And what Connect is it allows any user on the platform without having to pay to message all of their followers for free, and also, if users want to pay those artists, then those artists can send them private messages. So they can create two different tiers. And with that private channel, they can offer all kinds of really interesting things. They can offer like early access, which we call premiere access to their releases. Let's say your release date is on December 1st. Artists can make sure that only users who are paying them directly, which we don't take any money off of outside of the transaction fee that Stripe does, can hear that music early. And so part of what we want to do, and this is like a broader philosophical idea that we've got, is we think of artists and listeners as being like, celestial objects, like the sun and the earth. And the closer they get to one another, the stronger the force that they act upon one another. And so the way we see it is if we can have them in communication with one another, artists send messages to listeners, and then those listeners are able to comment on those messages and create a conversation, then all of a sudden now we create all this power, this momentum on the platform. And it's amazing. We've seen artists from all across the musical spectrum do this. It's critical for us to build those features because, I think a lot of times if you rely on, let's say, specifically algorithmic options for getting
Mhm.
music to people, which we have, one of the things you do is you actually take away from the artist a really key part of what makes them care about music and what makes fans care about the artist themselves, which is that artist's personality, their individuality. I mean, I'm an artist. My music is on Audiomack. It's also on all the other DSPs. You know, I really want to be able to understand who my fans are. I want to talk to them, and I want to hear
Mm.
what they think about my stuff. And
Yeah.
that's a really unique.
Looks like I lost Charlie. I think he might be getting a phone call. We'll hold on for just a second. I'm sure we'll get him back. It's probably just a phone call. But this point that he's talking about is crucial. Are you back? Oh, he's back.
I'm
Was that
back.
just
Sorry, my sister called me. My bad.
all good? No, so I mean this point is crucial. It would be amazing if all DSPs allowed you to interact and message all of your fans. That would transfer so much power. You'd be able to generate so much more revenue, build crazy community. Um, it seems like a no-brainer, right? Like from my perspective, I mean, I've been in independent music for a long time. It seems like a no-brainer. Why do you think other DSPs, without naming names, like what's the hesitancy here? Why not make that available elsewhere? What were you guys thinking about when you were figuring out to add this feature or not?
That is a fantastic question, and I think that I think there's two answers to it, maybe three. Um, the first is Audiomack is really unique in the sense that um, on our platform we have both artists and listeners, and if you contrast us from, let's say, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the music on those platforms is delivered by feed from the record labels. And so if they want to have artists have a presence on those platforms, then what they have to do is backfill that. So again, I'm an artist. So the way that I do that on Spotify is I had to sign up for Spotify for Artists. I had to claim my account. And at that point, I had access to this thing, which I can do certain things to then reach my fans. So I can, like, at my level, I can upload what they call a canvas to the player, but it's very, very limited. So those services that primarily rely on feeds, are at a major disadvantage, right? Because they don't have access to the artists. They have to backfill the access to those artists. Whereas on UGC platforms like us or YouTube or SoundCloud or Bandcamp, where there are DMs, where there is messaging. Um, the reason that that's possible is because they already have the artists on the platform. You uploaded the video to YouTube, you uploaded the music to Audiomack, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first explanation, is that I think UGC, user-generated content platforms, have like a major advantage in getting those dynamics going. That's the first thing. The
Hmm.
second thing is, as a sort of a broader matter, when you look at most feed-based streaming platforms, they actually don't give a lot of emphasis to sources of plays that don't come from the inside. So, again, to use Spotify as an example, it's a lot easier to access their algorithmic playlists, and it's a lot easier to access the official playlists, like made by Spotify and their curators, than it is to access external services. And I think the reason for that is because, it allows them to have some control over the balance of music that gets played on the platform, which is control that we don't want, right? Like, we want our community ultimately to be determinative of what gets played on the platform. And so we don't want to create any restrictions to this end. So another example of something we launched recently is a curator program, where basically anyone can apply to create playlists on the platform to curate music, and then they will get the same advantage in our search results as the playlists that we make within the platform. And that's because we think, crowdsourcing what's going on with trends is much, much more effective than having that come from the mothership. So that's the second explanation. The third explanation, I think, is maybe a bit of a counterintuitive one, which is that, you know, Audiomack has fewer than 40 employees total. And you might think that that's a major disadvantage, especially since our competitors have thousands, if not tens of thousands of employees.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, in the case of like YouTube or, let's say Apple Music, are housed within like trillion-dollar companies. But the fact of the matter is a smaller company can move faster. A smaller company needs less approval to do stuff. Smaller company can, make, versions of products that maybe wouldn't get accepted at a bigger company where everything has to be polished. So as a
Yeah.
result, I think we have a lot more features because we're a lot faster, we're a lot more agile, and that's a major advantage for us. We can move really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Obviously, I've known Z for a very long time, and he stays very connected to kind of what's going on. I'm assuming the other 39 employees are also doing the same thing, staying very connected with artists, really understanding the pain points and how artists need to move. And because you guys are small, when you guys come up with a bright idea that can help out independent artists, it gets funneled up really quickly. And, you being the VP of product, I'm sure you guys are implementing, super fast. So I think you guys are just super connected to independent artists. And I just think other companies, as they get bigger, that there's obviously there's still some employees that are tapped in, but navigating through and creating change, like you said, becomes more difficult for sure. um is there an artist on the platform that really understands the power that you have given them, that you can kind of highlight as a case study and is doing some very interesting things with the communication on the platform?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I don't have one off the top of my head right now. However, I think part of what I can do is highlight like unique ways that people have used the messages themselves.
Okay.
Um, and part of that has been, when you do this tiered um, approach to messages, where one can go to anybody who can follow you and it's free, and one goes out to only folks who are paying you. You can create special kinds of access. So, for example, if you want to do a pre-sale for tickets, or you want to do like an early merch drop, and you only want to access people who are like your most devoted fans, then using the supporter side of this, which is to say the paid access to it, is really, really, really effective. In my own case, for example, not to say that I'm the particularly innovative case of this, but whenever I put out music, I like write a couple of paragraphs just about where the music came from, the link to where you can listen to it on Audiomack. When my next show is, like, I lay it out to the folks on the platform in a way that's just not possible, even on platforms where maybe I was on earlier, right, or who have more overall users. This is my way of speaking directly to them. And yeah, it's incredibly easy. It's both available on our website, but it's also available through the Creator app, which has basically every single feature you can get on the website. So, but yeah, there are tons and tons of examples. I'm kind of overwhelmed by the number of things that are coming to mind right now, in terms of artists who've used the platform. Individual artists have been able to send out messages where they engage their fans, give them access to special stuff, but also labels sometimes act on behalf of their artists, which is a pretty
Hmm.
cool thing for label managers and for product managers within record labels to do, is to engage those fans if they have the okay from the artists they work with. So yeah, it's super, super broad opportunity.
So you mentioned a creator app. Now I probably should have known this before coming on, but is there two separate? Is there like the Audiomack app and then like a separate creator app?
That's correct. Yes. And the Audiomack app is where you listen to the music. So
Okay.
that's where you would find playlists or get our algorithmic recommendations or our curation. It's where you save your library and download that music. The Creator app has a ton of features on it, including messaging your fans, including directly uploading from your phone, including the promote tab, where we automatically generate images you can share on social media that say like, hey, I have new music out. Or each time you hit a milestone, like if you get to 1,000 plays or 1,000,000 plays, we'll create an image that you can share out. Because part of what we want to do is recognize that, you know, on the main, artists don't have big marketing teams to work with. They don't have necessarily someone who's going to generate good looking images for them. They want to be able to build their careers and do a lot of the routine stuff that allows them to focus more on making their music and connecting with their fans than acquiring the broad slate of marketing skills that you need to have have really successful campaigns. So it is an incredibly fully featured product, and it also includes, and I think this is pretty unique among all of the music companies out there, like effectively like a treasury. So all of the revenue that you generate on Audiomack, you can see in a bank account on the Creator app and on web, and you can cash out there directly to your bank account. And if you don't want to cash it out, you can create what's called a boost campaign, which was formerly called a sponsored song campaign, where you can pay to access more fans. So we will put you in our algorithm recommendations. We have a special slot. It's almost like what you see like in Google results. And we'll make sure that you land in feeds with folks who have similar music to you. So if you're like a hip hop artist, you'll show up in hip hop feeds. Afrobeats artists, you can show up in Afrobeats feeds. And you can use external payment methods to do this too. So again, this is one of these ideas we have where core philosophy of Audiomack is we never charge artists for anything. And the only example we have of an artist ever really paying us for any feature is to expand their footprint and directly get more plays on their music. So yeah, it's a
Nice.
super, super powerful mobile app.
Nice. We have a question from Icons on YouTube. He said, "How can we as a label get access to all of our roster on Audiomack?"
It's a great question, and I'm going to give you a one-letter answer, which is Z. That is definitely the best thing to do is reach out to Brian Zizuk. He is, as everybody knows, he runs content operations on Audiomack. He's one of the co-founders of the company. He will walk you through this process. It's super clean. It's super fast. We have staff dedicated just to helping you out with this, and it's automated. It's really not like a terribly technical or complicated flow. And pretty soon you'll have access to all of your artist account, all of whom you can manage both through the Creator app and also on web.
Boom. And then we have another question from Lexi. Can you pitch songs for editorial playlisting as an independent artist on Audiomack?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can pitch them both for inclusion on trending, which is if you open up the Audiomack app, it's one of the top sections where we pick out per genre the top songs from that day we want to highlight. That is entirely editorial, but also you can pitch for playlist consideration. So we have really, really big playlists with a lot of followers, like Verified Hip Hop or Verified Afro Beats, which you can pitch to through that interface. There's only one hurdle you got to jump through, which is you have to get authenticated on the platform. And what authentication means is we just have to prove that you are who you say you are, because we really don't want people uploading to the platform someone else's music and then, you know, accumulating followers and plays and misrepresenting that artist. But you don't have to pay a cent. It's totally free. You just got to apply.
And do you guys still have, I remember you guys have like curators in different cities that are curating playlists, maybe like specific to their hometown. That's still a thing, right?
It is, yeah. It's called Hometown Heroes, and it's really one of I mean, we didn't talk about it earlier, but I think it's one of the keys to our success. Like in addition to sort of economic considerations we were talking about earlier, one of the things about Audiomack is that like we're very embedded in the communities where we succeed. So we really try to work directly with radio DJs and club promoters and tastemakers, influential people in specific geographies to make sure we understand the music scenes that are happening there. Because, again, lots of folks out there will invest in algorithmic solutions to these problems. And I think what they unfortunately do in the process is they really kind of like lose the sense of culture, and they lose the heartbeat of what an individual community is. And so, yeah, we have this platform called Hometown Heroes where we do that. And increasingly, the thing that I referenced earlier, this new curator program, which is like less than a month old, is another really, really powerful way that if you are watching this and you're a curator, you can have influence on Audiomack and gain followers and get plays on your playlists.
Nice. Let's see. We got another question from my guy Impulse. All these features are great. What percentage of your followers slash listeners do you reach organically versus the boost on the creator app?
It's a good question. I mean, that certainly varies based on the individual. So in my case, I've been on Audiomack for over half a decade, and I've been releasing lots of music every year since then. So part of what I've been able to do is build a following on the platform, which has been a major area of focus just for me in my personal pursuit of music. And as VP of product, I've been able to think a lot about like how would this be more useful to me. And so one of the first things that we did on the platform was we set up an email and a push notification that fires every time an artist uploads new music and sends to all their followers. So every time you get more followers on the platform, if you release more music, it will be sent directly to every one of those followers. So investing on building a following on the platform directly relates to getting more plays on your music. Now, the question often is, okay, you're a brand new artist. Let's say you just heard about Audiomack for the first time, like right now. You're like, okay, I want to get on the platform. I want to get plays. I want to build a following. What's the most efficient way for me to do that beyond me just like asking, my friends and family and fans to follow me on the platform? This Boosts tool is a really good way to do that. So it's a way for you to get outside of your bubble and reach lots and lots of listeners out there. in sort of organic environments, right? Directly where they're listening to similar music and hopefully convert some folks. It's one of the most common requests that we've gotten from artists because everybody, including me, has this question. Like if you want people to hear your music, how do you get beyond your existing following? And hopefully this punctures that bubble a little bit and helps people expand their reach.
Nice. Cool. Now I know, like, I've been in music for a long time, and when I was running a label, like a lot of different technology companies or apps that were catered towards artists, they would hit us up to try to use their apps and things like that. And there was never, even if it was like a cool tool for the artist, I feel like a lot of companies neglect like the fan side. I would always tell these companies, like, look, if the fans are there, the artists they're gonna come. It seems like you guys, with the number that you announced in the beginning of the session, 10 million active users daily. Seems like you guys are doing a great job balancing both. On the fan side of things, like, why as a fan should I listen on Audiomack?
It's a really great question, and I'm biased, but I really think that we create the most fully featured immersive fan experience that you can have on the platform. Because if you contrast us to a lot of these other platforms where it's really kind of a one-way street, right? You find the music, you listen to it, and that's kind of it. If you want to know who the artist is, you kind of have to go to a social media, let's say, and check out their Instagram or their TikTok or even their YouTube. It ends up being pretty limited, and I think that's a really, really hard box for other platforms to break out of, because again, you know, the artist and the fan are defined by one another. Like if there is no artist, there is no fan, and if there is no fan, there is no artist. The reason artists release their music to the public is because they want people to hear it, and the reason people listen to music is because they want to connect with artists. And so I really think that, Audiomack more so than any other platform creates a space where those two folks can get really, really close in the same space. And if you
Hmm.
think about it, if you step out for a second and realize that, like, okay, why is it happening that the place where artists put their primary work, their music, is for some reason not the place where they connect with the people listen to it? Why do they want their music to be up on Apple Music if the only way they can talk to them is through Instagram? It doesn't add up really. And I think from the inside, one of the things that I've learned is that's a structural disadvantage. And it's a structural disadvantage that they have because, they're not UGC platforms and it's just harder to backfill those communities. So as a fan, receiving messages from artists, being notified before anywhere else that the artists I love have new music coming out, being able to listen to that music without restrictions, even if I can't afford a subscription, really important to me.
Indeed. So we're about to roll into 2025. If you're allowed to share, if you can share, like, what's on the roadmap for 2025 that either fans or artists can look forward to on Audiomack?
Definitely. It's a great question. So, I mean, as you probably gathered from this conversation, I'm like obsessed with the celestial metaphor. I'm like really trying to get those two parties closer and closer and closer and closer together. And so, what you
Hmm.
can really expect are I want to create much more surface area whereby a listener encounters artists that they want to follow so that later on those artists can directly contact those listeners. If we could just keep bringing them closer and closer together, then I think more and more good things are going to happen. And part of how that has to work is create more and more ways that they can come together, even if they don't even know what following is, which is crazy to think in 2025. But I don't want it to have to be conscious for a fan to decide that they want to hear more from an artist. They're already showing us. If they listen to a lot of an artist's music, they're telling us that they're significant to them. And so I really want to bring them closer and closer together. And the closer and closer together that they become, I want to give artists more and more tools to not only reach out to them, but also to create financial opportunities for themselves. Because I think, and I know this probably sounds outrageous, Audiomack can both be the most accessible music platform in the world and also the most lucrative for the artists. And that kind of goes back to the first point that I made, which is, right now, those services that charge $12 a month are creating a world for people who can pay the money and not creating a world for people who can't. But one of the strange things they're also doing is they're saying if you can pay more than $12 a month, we have no way of collecting your money. We have nothing that we can do to realize more revenue. So a perfect system, in my opinion, is a system that realizes revenue from folks who can't pay that $12 a month and realizes more revenue from folks who can pay more than that by giving them elevated experiences and returning that value back to the artists at the highest rate possible. I think that's how you create the most lucrative platform for the greatest number of people. And so my like crazy focus is to really, really try to achieve those two goals. We want to be not, 10 million users a day. We want to be like a billion users a day. And we really want to make sure that those billion users a day are the most interesting and most lucrative fans for the artists. I think that's how you create the most compelling platform because, you know, some streaming services are afraid to say this, but artists create the primary value in music. It's not streaming services. It's not record labels. It's the artists. The music is what people are there for. It's what the artists are there for. And it's what the listener is there for. And so those are the individuals who should be the best remunerated in the situation. They should be paid the best. And the way to do that is with really continuous, really intense product innovation, where you present more and more value to the listener that they're willing to pay for. So that's a really core critical thing. And then probably a secondary thing behind that that I'm like really laser focused on is I want to expand the definition of artists. I think that right now, if I really think about it, the way that I make music is pretty primitive in the sense that I have to have access to like a DAW and some sort of digital, like a digital audio interface, and my instruments have to go straight in. And even if I'm like working directly within a DAW, there's a great segmentation across different platforms where like maybe I'm working in Pro Tools and then I need something like Splice, and then it's got to go into some kind of a file locker, like Samply, and then ultimately it gets publish out to a DSP like Audiomack. And to me, that's exclusive. That creates too many opportunities for people who might be interested in making music to get caught up and then not do so. And so, what I really want to do is go further downstream and create more access because, as you can tell, on the listener side, we've been laser focused on access. That's how we've grown so fast. But on the artist side, I see tons of opportunities, and I think it's incredibly important to pursue them.
Yeah, no, I think the conversation's refreshing. I think, without getting too political, I think with some other DSPs, they're trying to balance too many interests, and it's hard to align them all. Whether
Right.
it's artists, investors, major labels, sometimes they're the same. It's tough to get, to balance everybody's interest and make sure everybody's winning. It's a tough thing to do. Um, so is there any specific feature that you could be that maybe is next month or like in January that you can announce now? Can we get an exclusive or do we have to hold off?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I mean, we are launching a ton of stuff very soon. I'm trying to figure out like what is the most interesting because there's a lot of really interesting different stuff that we're putting out. I mean, I guess it won't make anybody angry to announce that I think we're going to be the first DSP to really make charts into like a full feature where it's like fully one of the tabs on the app and you can boil down to any country on earth and explore uh, what is the top trending music in every genre for that particular locale, which is fascinating to me, not just because I want to know, what kind of music people are listening to in each country, and it's like fun to do, but also because as an artist, I want to increasingly be informed about where my music is performing really well.
Hmm.
And frankly, just looking at the numbers on our platform, just looking at like where plays actually come from, where people are listening to music. Number one is always my library, right? Because it's kind of like obvious, like, people save the music, they want to listen to the music. And after that is search. But then following that is from our charts. People really, really care about music that's demonstrating itself as like rising or a heat seeker, or maybe even already popular. It's like really fascinating for users. So to me, that's like an incredibly cool feature, and it's also going to allow us to create a lot more ways for artists to win. It's like a critical
Nice.
thing for us because right now, if we say to you, "Hey, you got 1 million plays on Audiomack, you got 1,000 plays on Audiomack," that satisfies a certain thing. But if we can also tell you that you are like the number 10 rock song in New York State, that creates, think about every single region where we can notify you that you're succeeding. And we want
Mm.
every artist who doesn't feel seen, but is actually succeeding without their own knowledge to now understand that, right? To possess that knowledge.
Yeah.
We just want to celebrate artists at every juncture because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, they are the primary creators of value on the platform, and they really are our engine for success. We just like want to hitch our wagon to them and follow them as far as they'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, as an artist, you never really know like where your music will start resonating first. And if
Mm.
you have that information, you can be intentional about, you know, building that specific area out further. You can get ahead of the game. It looks like we have another question from my guy Impulse. He says, "Is there any plan to bring in real life experiences to expand visibility for Audiomack, kind of like Amazon, Apple's live performances? Are we getting on the road?
This
Are
is
we doing anything in real life, Charlie? What's going on?"
This is such a layup. This is such a layup. So yes, and I would highly encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. We both do amazing in-person events in Audiomack has a studio within our offices where we both, we record artists and we also do live performances. But I would really highly encourage everybody to check out. We have an amazing long history of putting out. We have a series called Fine Tuned where we do acoustic in office performances. We've long done a series called Trap Symphony where we do orchestral arrangements along with performances from artists. And yeah, we do these events called Connect events, which was what I was referring to earlier, where we get amazing performances both in our studio and elsewhere. We've done them in Nigeria, we've done them in New York, we've done them all over the place. So yes, live experiences are a big part of who we are. Audiomack Studios are like an incredible space, both for creating content and for creating music. And yeah, you should definitely check out our YouTube. Definitely check out our socials. We got tons of this stuff.
Yeah. I just want to let people know you can ask questions. All you need to do is put your question in the comments. So whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or LinkedIn, I gotta pop in and see what's going on because the comments don't flow through from Instagram. So a lot of times I miss comments on Instagram, but I'm gonna remind myself now to make sure I scan the Instagram comments. Some Akir said, "I've also seen Chief Keef's Trap Symphony as well as Lil Durk Free Him." Does that have anything to do with Audio Mac, or is that something else?
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, Chief Keef's Trap Symphony is like one of the most popular things that we've ever done. Um, I mean, I almost don't want to comment on it. I just think everybody after this broadcast, don't leave now, but after this broadcast, go watch it. It's just like an incredible performance with like a really beautiful arrangement behind him. It went like pretty viral when it came out.
Nice. What about in terms of partnerships? I know that I think it was. I mean, I think obviously Two Loss and Audio Mac have a great relationship now. But how are you guys viewing partnerships? With other potential organizations or companies that could be complementary.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think for us, we like really, really embrace where other folks are doing like fantastic work that can work directly with us. So a good example of this is we integrated directly with the app Rap Chat to allow
Hmm.
folks who create music there to directly upload to Audiomack. And we're always looking for stuff like that. Like again, one of my objectives going forward, not just in 2025, but also beyond is to create more access for artists. One of the ways to do that is to tap into this burgeoning, really exciting universe of creation apps out there, which include Rap Chat, but also include like BandLab and tons of other platforms out there. But it doesn't stop there. We work with a company called Groover, which does submissions for playlist consideration. So that's exactly the same as the they asked earlier about the trending and playlist consideration you can do on Audiomack. You can also do that through Groover. Um, we do partnerships with folks to help make it easier to get subscriptions on the platform or to buy passes. We work with this company called MTN, which is the one of the biggest cellular providers in Nigeria. Anywhere you look, our partnerships and business development are really, really focused on just making it easier to get in the door, whether you're an artist or a listener. Those are our primary users, and we got to make sure they're really well provided for.
Nice. Shout out to my guy Seth over at Rap Chat. Rap Chat. I haven't talked to him in a long time,
Oh
but it's
yeah, I know
dope.
Seth. Hey Seth.
uh, anything else that we haven't discussed? I mean, I know we haven't talked about, and it's not like we can cover everything in regards to Audiomack in just 45 minutes to an hour. But is there anything that we haven't talked about that we need to mention on this live?
It's a really good question because you're right. I mean, there's like any number of things that we can talk about with Audiomack. I think that like if I haven't made it clear already, if I could give like a sort of a final statement about like what we're about as a platform. I often think, and I wonder if you agree with me about this, that like people treat music as if it's like a zero sum game. Like someone has to lose and someone has to win. And I think, my colleague Z, who's come up a lot of times in this conversation, you know, says again and again on social media that, you know, there are lots of folks in music who are very willing to prey on artists' enthusiasm, to prey on their goodwill, to prey on their ambition, and that results in artists who get their music out at a higher cost than they otherwise would. And that is just something flatly we do not believe at Audiomack. And I think not believing in that idea, thinking that like it's not a zero sum game, it actually everybody in the ecosystem, labels, artists, listeners, you name it, can all win and grow together. I really think is a key driver of our growth. And just to show that we're putting our money where our mouth is, on Audiomack, you can upload an unlimited amount of time of music. There's no cap on the amount of music you can upload on the platform for free. You don't have to have anything other than an account on the platform in order to do that. That's really not true of a lot of our competitors, right? Whether it's distributors or UGC platforms, they will charge you at a certain point if you put up over a certain number of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We do not do that. You can generate an unlimited number of images. It doesn't matter. So on the artist side, we really want to encourage and foster the music that's created on our platform. And on the listener side, as I mentioned, Audiomack is supposed to be accessible for everybody. So our Plus subscription is amazing. It removes ads. It gives access to lots of special features, but you do not have to have it to have, in my opinion, like a world-class experience on the platform. And so, you know, it's not just that we think it's the right thing to do, but we certainly do. It's also that we really think that this is a way for us, and I think we've shown this is a way for us to grow and really succeed within music and to compete, to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. Because when it boils down to it, if you had to name one reason why Audiomack is a lot different from everybody else in this space, it is access. It's a single word. We are about access. We're about access for artists, access for listeners. We're about growing the pie, not trying to slice it up into different pieces. That's what it comes down to for us. So, I mean, anybody watching, if you walk away with one thing, it's like that's what makes us different. That's what we're about. We want to be the place that anybody can come to, and that we are going to work our hardest to make sure that you reach the greatest number of listeners and that you generate as much income as is possible from those listeners.
So, no, I think it's powerful, that access piece. Sometimes we're shut out from access, whether it's social media or other DSP. That information is so valuable, and these platforms know that. So that's what they're gating. So yeah, I always encourage independent art, especially in the beginning. You have to find your fans wherever they are, and you have to cultivate that relationship, build that relationship. so that ultimately they become true supporters of what you're doing. And being able to communicate through the platform again is extremely powerful. So I applaud you guys for opening that gate for folks on the platform. This has been a great conversation. Please, if you haven't already started using Audiomack, make sure you upload your music today. Download the Creator app, download the Audiomack app, and explore and see what's out there. Because especially as independent art, you got to snatch up fans wherever they are. And if there's 10 million people logging into this app, I gotta think that there's some people there that listen to your genre of music. So make sure you check it out. Charlie, any last words?
Just want to say thank you for having me on, Dame. I really enjoyed the conversation. To everybody watching, I thought there was really smart questions. And if you ever want to have me back on, I'm more than happy to come back on Too Lost. It was really enjoyable for me.
No, we'll definitely have to have you back on as the platform evolves and grows. Hopefully there's some other ways that we can partner and collaborate, maybe on some in real life experiences or maybe some stuff online. I'll continue to bug Z. Z's my guy. He always gets back to me super quick. I know so many people hit him up, so I'm surprised at how fast he's always able to get back to me, and is super appreciative of that. So I definitely try not to take advantage of that, but yeah.
He's a force in nature. He's really, I think, like in the crazy world of music personalities, he's like a true good guy. He's like a trustworthy source of information. He puts himself out there. He wants to help people. Yeah, Z's amazing. Shout out to Z.
I mean, I know that the music industry gets a bad rap, but there are some good folks in here doing some good fight, and sometimes they get taken advantage of and they get chased out of the industry. So we got to make sure we, take care of the good ones so that that
I
positive
so
energy can
agree.
spread. So
It's so true. It's so true.
anyway, this has been another episode of Two Lost Office Hours. Hopefully, it was helpful. Again, make sure you download the Audiomack app and the Creator app today. Check it out. We'll have Charlie back sometime in the next year to give us an update. Have a good week, y'all. Make sure you share your wins on Wednesday. Peace.